Achilles, the warrior death could only touch once. Before there was Superman, before there was Captain America, before storytellers imagined indestructible heroes armed with weapons forged beyond the reach of ordinary man, there was Achilles, the greatest warrior of the Trojan War, a man born from both immortality and divinity, a fighter trained by one of the world's greatest teachers, a champion protected by the waters of the underworld and armed by the smith of the gods. But Achilles was not truly immortal. He was something more tragic. He was a mortal man whose death had been reduced to a single point. This is the mythic power profile of Achilles. Born between two worlds, Achilles was the son of Peleus, a mortal king, and Thetis, an immortal goddess of the sea, and that placed him between two worlds. From his father, Achilles inherited mortality. He could age, suffer, and eventually die. But through his mother, the blood of the divine flowed through his body. Achilles was not an Olympian god. He could not command the sea like Poseidon or throw lightning bolts like Zeus. His divinity expressed itself through his physical potential. His body was stronger than that of any ordinary warrior. His endurance was greater, his movements were faster, his instincts were sharper. Even among the legendary kings and champions who sailed to Troy, Achilles stood apart. He possessed the strength to overpower elite warriors, the stamina to continue fighting through prolonged combat, and the speed to control the distance between himself and almost any opponent. Homer repeatedly called him swift-footed Achilles. That description is more than just a poetic decoration. Speed was one of his defining powers. Achilles could close the distance before any enemy had time to prepare. He could chase down warriors attempting to escape him. He could move through the chaos of a battle with a quickness that seemed to be supernatural. He did not simply strike harder than other men. He arrived before they were ready to be struck. But divine blood does not simply satisfy Thetis. She knew her son was still mortal. She knew that a terrible destiny awaited him, so she attempted to take mortality away from him. Baptized in the waters of death. According to the most famous version of the legend, Thetis carried the infant Achilles to the River Styx. The Styx was no ordinary river. It flows through the underworld, forming a boundary between the world of the living and the kingdom of the dead. Even the gods treated its waters with fear and reverence. When an Olympian swore an oath upon the Styx, the oath could not be broken without terrible consequences. And Thetis took her child and lowered him into those dark waters. She was not bathing Achilles. She was exposing mortal flesh to the power of death itself. Every part of his body touched by the Styx was transformed. His skin became nearly impossible for mortal weapons to penetrate. The ordinary rules governing injury and death no longer applied to him. But Thetis had to hold the infant somewhere. She held him by the heel. The small piece of flesh never touched the water. Everywhere else, Achilles carried the protection of the stick. At the heel, he remained completely human. This was not merely a weak point in an otherwise powerful body, it was his mortal anchor, the one place where death still possessed a claim on him. Achilles had not become completely immortal. Instead, his mortality had been compressed into a single point. That is what made his protection both a blessing and a curse. Against ordinary warriors, Achilles appeared invincible. A blade that would open another man would fail against him. A spear that would end another warrior's life might leave Achilles standing, but his protection was never absolute. Some of the earliest traditions surrounding Achilles did not describe him as physically invulnerable at all. Homer even allows him to be wounded in a battle. The River Styx version emerged more clearly in later tellings of this legend, but myth does not always preserve one clean continuity. Like a modern superhero rewritten across generations, Achilles accumulated different origins, powers, and interpretations. And the River Styx became the explanation that endured. It transformed Achilles from merely the greatest warrior of his generation to a man protected by the boundaries of death itself. But invulnerability alone does not create a great warrior. Power without skill is only potential. To become Achilles, the child still had to be trained. Forged by Chiron. Achilles was placed under the instruction of Chiron, the wisest and most civilized of the centaurs. Chiron was not a mindless creature driven by appetite or violence. He was a teacher, healer, musician, and master of the heroic arts. His students included some of the greatest figures in Greek mythology. Under Chiron, Achilles learned how to transform his extraordinary body into a weapon. He was taught swordsmanship, spearfighting, hunting, running, tracking, survival, battlefield awareness, and the discipline required to control his natural aggression. Chiron also taught Achilles medicine. Achilles learned how to recognize injuries, treat wounds, and preserve life. That contradiction is central to his character. The great killer among the Greeks was also trained as a healer. The hands capable of tearing through armies also possessed the knowledge to close wounds. Chiron even instructed him in music and the playing of the lyre. Achilles was not created as a simple brute. He was educated as a complete heroic figure, warrior, hunter, healer, musician, and leader. The River Styx made Achilles difficult to kill. Chiron made him impossible to defeat. His combat abilities were not the result of magical transformation. They came from a combination of divine blood, supernatural protection, relentless training, and natural talent. Achilles was born with potential beyond that of an ordinary man, and Chiron taught him to use every part of it. The spear only Achilles could wield. Among the weapons of Achilles, none represented him better than his spear. It was fashioned from ash taken from Mount Pelion and presented to Chiron to Peleus, the father of Achilles. The weapon eventually passed from father to son, and this was no ordinary battlefield spear. It was a massive, powerful, and extraordinarily difficult to wield. Its weight alone placed it beyond the ability of most warriors. When Peleus entered battle wearing the armor of Achilles, he could carry Achilles' other weapons, but not the Pelian spear. The weapon remained behind because Achilles alone possessed the strength and skill necessary to properly wield it. The armor could be borrowed. The appearance of Achilles could be imitated, but his spear could not be mastered by another man. In that sense, it functioned almost like a divine weapon keyed to a single hero. It was not simply something Achilles carried, it was the measure of what he was. Anyone could look like Achilles beneath his armor. Only Achilles could lift the spear. He also carried a sword and other conventional weapons of war, but the ancient stories do not consistently treat his sword as a unique or divine artifact. The spear was different. It connected Achilles to his father, to Chiron, and to the mountains where his heroic education began. It was the weapon that most completely embodied his strength. The armor of the gods. Achilles possessed not one, but two legendary suits of armor. His first armor had originally been given to his father, Peleus, by the gods. It was eventually passed down to Achilles as part of his heroic inheritance. When Achilles withdrew from the battle during the Trojan War, his companion wore his army to make the Trojans believe that Achilles had returned. For a time, the illusion worked. The Trojans did not merely fear the armor, they feared the man they believed was inside. But that man was not Achilles, and he was killed, and the armor was taken by Hercules. Achilles had lost his companion, his armor, and the physical symbol of his identity as the greatest warrior among the Greeks. To return to battle, he would need to be remade. Thetis went to Hephaestus, the divine smith of Olympus. Hephaestus had forged weapons, palaces, and artifacts for the gods themselves. At the request of Thetis, he created a new suit of armor specifically for Achilles. A breastplate, a helmet, greaves, and the legendary shield of Achilles. This was more than protective equipment. This was divine craftsmanship. The armor was built by a god to contain the force of a nearly unstoppable warrior. Its appearance projected supernatural radiance and terror. When Achilles entered battle wearing it, he did not resemble any ordinary soldier. He looked like an instrument of divine judgment. But the shield was the true masterpiece. Upon its surface, Hephaestus created an image of the entire human world: the heavens, the earth, the sea, the sun and the moon, cities at peace, cities at war, fields being harvested, people dancing, trials being judged, animals moving through nature. Life, death, celebration, conflict, and order were all carried upon his shield. Achilles entered battle holding the world in front of him. The images reveal something profound about his character. Achilles was capable of defending the human world, but he could never fully belong to it. He carried scenes of marriage, agriculture, law, and community, yet his own destiny offered him no peace among them. The shield of Achilles protected his body, while displaying everything his chosen path would eventually deny him. The power of battle fury. Achilles possessed another power that no armor or river could give him: his rage. The Iliad begins with the anger of Achilles because his anger is not a minor personality flaw. It is a force capable of changing the direction of an entire war. When Achilles refused to fight, the Greeks began to collapse. When he returned, the balance of power shifted almost immediately. His presence alone affected morale. The Greeks believed victory had returned with him. The Trojans understood that death was approaching. After the death of his cousin, Achilles' grief transformed into battle rage. He no longer fought merely as a soldier attempting to win a war. He fought like a natural disaster, wearing divine armor. His rage increased his focus, aggression, and willingness to push beyond ordinary human restraint. And this was not a power he completely controlled. Achilles could dominate the battlefield while still being dominated by his own emotions. His anger made him terrifying. It also made him vulnerable in ways the River Styx could not protect. No spear could easily penetrate his body, but pride could reach him, grief could reach him, rage could reach him. Achilles was physically protected from the weapons of any man, yet emotionally exposed by every force that makes humanity dangerous to itself. The choice of Achilles. Achilles eventually faced a choice between two destinies. He could remain away from Troy, live a long life, and eventually disappear into obscurity. Or he could fight at Troy, die young, and achieve a name that would never be forgotten. Achilles chose glory. This decision reveals the true nature of his power. His greatest ability was not invulnerability. It was not speed. It was not strength, armor, or skill with the spear. His greatest power was his willingness to look directly at his fate and walk toward it. Achilles knew the glory would cost him his future. He accepted his price. That doesn't make him morally perfect. Achilles could be proud, selfish, wrathful, and brutally destructive. But mythology did not preserve him because he was perfect. It preserved him because he represented the terrible extremes of heroic existence. He deeply loved. He hated completely. He fought without equal. He chose a short life whose fire would remain visible across thousands of years. Final profile. Achilles was a semi-divine warrior born from the union of immortal king Peleus and the sea goddess Thetis. His natural attributes included superhuman strength, extraordinary speed, heightened endurance, powerful combat skills, and a commanding presence. According to later tradition, immersed in the River Styx granted him a near total invulnerability, leaving only the heel by which his mother held him vulnerable. Under Chiron, Achilles mastered warfare, hunting, medicine, music, and the disciplines required of a complete mythic hero. He wielded the Pelean ass spear, an inherited weapon so heavy that no other Greek warrior could properly use it. He wore divine armor forged by Hephaestus and carried a shield upon which the smith of the gods had created the world itself. But none of these gifts could release Achilles from fate. Waters of death could protect his flesh, a god could armor his body, Chiron could protect his skills, but no power could grant Achilles both glory and a long life. He had to choose, and Achilles chose to become immortal in the only way still available to him, not by living forever, but by creating a name that death could never bury. This was the power of Achilles, a warrior protected everywhere except the one place death needed to touch. A mortal man armored like a god, a life deliberately exchanged for legend.